Okay, welcome to the regular board meeting of the Eastchester Board of Fire Commissioners for Wednesday, December 14th, 2022. It is now 7:04 p.m. Motion to open the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Please, let's raise salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, now we go to our reports, and we'll start with Jamie.
Okay, thank you. Tonight we're looking at the financials through November 30th. As of November 30th, the financials present a net budget surplus of approximately $1.4 million. However, at this time, if you look at spending to year to date, it is anticipated that by the end of this year, we will have a surplus of just under $1 million. Looks like anywhere maybe between $600,000 to $900,000. That's accounting for the 2 additional payrolls, holiday pay, and just our general monthly operating expenses that will still be accrued or paid this month. So that balance is going to be our carryover into the next year. That is the complete surplus. That's not something that's being added to a surplus. So our spending this year really was pretty much in line with what we have budgeted for. As I had mentioned at the last meeting, there will be budget transfers amongst the line items that I will recommend likely in February, once we've gotten all of our expenses in for December and we can get a final picture of where we ended for 2022. And then at that time, we can look at any possible allocations for 2023. Again, I'm not anticipating a significant surplus, so there might not be many allocations to make, but it's something we can look at, particularly as we get into our audit, if we want to appropriate any of those funds for the upcoming expenses that we are aware of. As far as VINCO, there is a bill tonight for pretty much the rest of the project with VINCO. After this bill was $165,000. There's just a remainder, a small retainage percentage on there, about $5,800. With this bill, we have exceeded the permissive referendum. And as advised by the board in the past, rather than revising the permissive referendum, we're going to be using general funds, which is about $101,000 there. Also, as far as the use of our reserve, the board has authorized a second expenditure for the next phase of Chester Heights for $760,000. That will also come out of the capital reserve. After that expenditure, that will leave us with approximately $400,000 remaining in the capital reserve, just to give you an idea going into 2023. As far as our Treasury Direct investments, we now have $5 million invested in 4-week Treasury bills through that account. The current rates have increased to over 3.5%. We will continue to monitor, how much we can have in Treasury Direct as we get into the next few months. As you know, we don't receive our tax collection until May, which is the reason that the investments were decreased. And then the last item I have here is that we did finally receive the rates from NYSHIP. They had a presentation at the beginning of this month. The rates increased an average of 15%. The largest increases were over 22% for certain Medicare primary plans. When we budgeted for 2023, we anticipated approximately a 10% increase. So I do expect we will need a budget appropriation for 2023 to accurately reflect these healthcare costs. Our retirees have been notified of the rate changes, and the rate changes for our employees who are contributing will take effect with their first paycheck in January. The other thing tonight, we have a separate motion, separate from the bills. We have to make our Medicare Part B reimbursements. This is for our retirees. We are required to make these reimbursements under our NYSHIP plan. We choose to reimburse them once a year in December. So there is a separate motion for the reimbursement of those premiums. That amount is around $137,000.
Okay, thanks, Jamie.
Sure.
Chief.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, everybody. Monthly activity report for November 2022. 359 total alarms, 6 were fire related, 172 EMS and rescue, and mutual aid was given twice to the fire district in Greenville. Vehicle maintenance continues through the use of outside vendors. One of our vendors, Ruscon Truck Service, has closed. The owner is retired and he's selling the property. One of the mechanics has inquired if the EFD would be interested in hiring him as a part-time mechanic. He would be able to work on the apparatus, cars, small power tools, the emergency diesel generators, and having an in-house mechanic would lead to less downtime for apparatus and vehicles, as most of the repair places are shorthanded, so sometimes vehicles don't get repaired very quickly. Tim Dalton's weekly maintenance reports for November were emailed to the board on December 6th. And there are 2 quotes for generator repairs that are needed. One for Chester Heights for fuel injector replacement for $6,606.62, and one for the Tuckahoe Firehouse for fuel filter and fuel filter housing replacement for $1,176.19. Both are with GenServe, the company that we use to maintain them. Fire prevention and code enforcement activities continue with numerous plan reviews and inspections, and the fire prevention reports were emailed to the board on December 2nd. There are 2 members out on long-term absence, and the 4 probationary firefighters in the fire academy continue to do well and are tentatively scheduled to graduate on January 15th of next year. I received an email from the Eastchester High School guidance office asking if the district would be interested in participating in the WISE program. It's an internship for the high school seniors. They do 25 hours a week in their last month of school or last month and a half of school once they've already gotten all their credits they need to graduate. And so they come here, they go on calls with the guys who make them wear yellow vests. They're not allowed to do anything other than observe on calls, and when there would be anything dangerous, they stay back where the public would be. So we have participated in the past. We didn't participate in 21 or 22 due to COVID. We didn't want to expose anybody to, our members going on calls or them actually going on calls where there would be COVID patients. But I would recommend that we resume this program, as it can be a feeder program to hiring future firefighters. Tuckahoe High School, one of our lieutenants was the first person that did it. Tuckahoe has a different name for it, but it's a similar program, and our Lieutenant Greenbaum was actually a intern from Tuckahoe High School and came on the job. So I think it would be a good thing, but I'm looking for the board's permission to run that program next year. It would be in April or May of next year, when the seniors are getting ready to graduate.
Do you need a board vote?
I think so, just to say it's okay to do it, because we did discontinue it, and there is still COVID out there, but I think it's, enough people have either had it or have vaccinations against it, that I think that by May, it usually calms down. It usually picks up in the wintertime when everybody's indoors, but I think by May, I think it'll be calmed down enough that we would be able to do it, and if something happened, then I guess we would have to cancel, but it's hard for them to make other plans. So, I would just look for board support to allow me to do that program for next year.
Well, it's one of your motions, so we'll go through that.
Okay. All right. I requested the board authorize me to purchase 3 mobile radios for car 2103. We have a trunking radio, a UHF radio for fireground, and a VHF radio for dispatch. That I've gotten quotes from Motorola for, and I've provided resolutions for those. Those are for the vehicle that the assistant chief will get when he's promoted. Also, we need to get spare radios, spare portable batteries, a portable radio for the assistant chief, microphones, and just some extra parts. So the 4 quotes that I got, or the 3 quotes I got, add up to a total of $21,306.85. So I would ask the board to allow me to buy that equipment from Motorola. Everything is on state or county contract. The programming is on county contract, and the radios themselves are on state contract pricing. Over the past month, the members have participated in many training evolutions. I just want to thank the officers that organized and conducted the training, and to the members that participated in that training. I think we've been stepping up our game as far as the training goes. We've had a lot of technical rescue disciplines and back to basics with hose stretching, and we did live fire. up at the academy and apartment pack stretching for high-rise buildings. So we had various trainings over the last month or two. So I just want to thank the people that made that happen and thank the board for allowing it to happen. We used both of our training days this year, which in past years we haven't always been able to do. So we did do the 2 training days this year. The first one was on when we implemented new bailout systems, because our prior bailout systems were 10 or 11 years old, and they have 10-year lifespan, so we had to replace them. We would have done it sooner, but the lead time and delays for the COVID and the supply chain issues took us about 9 months to get that equipment in and then get the training done. So everybody has been issued, I think one person out on long-term sick leave hasn't been trained, but everybody else has been issued their new bailout system, their emergency escape system. And so that's what one of the training days was used for. And the second one, as I said, was a back to basic hose stretching, high-rise, nozzle, high-rise apartment pack stretching up at the county for live fire. So I think the training's been going well over the last year, so I just wanted to thank the officers and members that made it happen. Vinco Builders has advised there's just some final electrical work. They have like 6 electrical fixtures to do in the basement, 2 on the main floor, and Vinco broke a piece of conduit right below our electric meter, so that has to be replaced. They have the parts, they just are waiting for the electricians to get that work done. That's why we're not giving them the full amount. I guess we're withholding, would you say, like $5,000 or something to finish up those final electrical repairs. Once they're done, then they'll get the rest of their check. And finally, on a sad note, retired Eastchester Fire Department mechanic John Lucenti passed away on December 13th, 2022. John was hired on December 9th, 1974, and retired on November 29th, 2013, serving more than 38 years with the district as the mechanic helper and then the mechanic of the fire department. John was also a volunteer firefighter as a member of the Rescue Hook and Ladder Company in Tuckahoe since 1973. And he never took out his exempt, so he would still be considered active, even though he wasn't participating anymore. So I request that the board close the meeting with a moment of silence in honor of John Lucenti's service to the district as our mechanic and as a volunteer firefighter. That's all I have.
Thanks, Chief.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I neglected one thing. So Lieutenant Baker is running the Toys for Tots program for the union. They do it every year. The union does it. The district allows them to use the firehouses and bins and stuff. So the union and the fire department were recognized for years of support. And this says, in appreciation of your support of the 2022 Toys for Tots campaign. It's the 75th anniversary of the Toys for Tots program. So they presented this nice plaque. So we'll put that up in one of the firehouses. And then the Toys for Tots Westchester County Division presented each of our firehouses for doing it, the Commander's Award. So headquarters, Tuckahoe, Bronxville, North End, and the schoolhouse each got a little certificate acknowledging the Commander's Award because we're one of the larger ones in Westchester. The residents are extremely generous, and we get lots of toys, during the holidays, and it makes that the U.S. Marine Corps Reserve Toys for Tots program very successful. So I just wanted to acknowledge the union and Lieutenant Baker on his efforts for assisting with that program. So.
Yes, very good. And we all thank the union for that effort. It's a great work they're doing.
All right, so we'll do. You take care of your motions now, then, Chief. You got 6 in the back of this sheet here.
Okay.
So, all right. So the first motion is to authorize Chief to purchase portable radio supplies, which includes portable radio batteries, remote speaker microphones, and the multi-unit battery charger for Motorola Solutions at the New York State OGS contract number PT68722. Pricing for $4,806.97. I'll make a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second that motion.
Islam?
Commissioner Laurie?
Aye.
Commissioner Randall?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
Yes.
Commissioner Roach?
Aye.
Commissioner Carla?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Again, motion to authorize Chief Tween to purchase a Motorola APX 6500 UHF mobile radio, a Motorola APX 6000 XE, UHF portable radio, and a Motorola APX 8500 all band trunking mobile radio. So car 2103 from Motorola Solutions at the New York State OGS contract number PT68722. Pricing $15,155.31. I'll make a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
Yes.
Commissioner Roach?
Aye.
Commissioner Carla?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, motion to authorize the chief to purchase from ESS Inc. a Motorola XPR 550E VHF mobile radio at the New York State contract PT 68715 price of $1,013.33. Also a leather case with strap for a portable radio and radio programming from ESS Inc. at the Westchester County contract number 5686 BPS price $330.79. for a total cost of $1,344, spot 57. I'll make a motion. Second, please.
Second.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
Yes.
Commissioner Roach?
Aye.
Commissioner Carla?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to authorize Chief Tween to respond to Eastchester High School Guidance Department that the district will participate in the WISE program for high school seniors in 2023 and to implement that program in 2023. I'll make a
I would
motion.
also add
Oh,
that
sorry.
we will also include, we'll give the chief permission to do the same with Tucker High School or
Yeah,
Bronxville High
they'll
School.
contact me, so that's fine. Bronxville doesn't really do that. I mean, they've never contacted me
Mhm.
about doing it, but Tuckahoe usually will a little bit later in the year.
So that'll be included in this motion as well.
Okay.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay. Easy.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
Yes.
Commissioner Roach?
Aye.
Commissioner Carla?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to authorize Chief Tween to have repairs performed on the Chester Heights Firehouse emergency generator to remove and replace the fuel injectors and related seals and gaskets and take a fuel sample for testing by GenSer of Plainview, New York for a total of $6,606.62. I'll make that motion.
Could we hold off on this motion until we talk about the new mechanic position?
Well, how soon do you need it done, Chief?
How soon are we moving into Chester Heights?
I don't know.
Yeah, I would say we could do, we could wait till after, till
mean-
the next meeting.
We don't know if we talked about the conversation about the mechanic.
Right.
Does GenServe care who does the work on the generators? Do they care at all?
Well, if we would hire a mechanic and he could do the work on it, then we wouldn't be using GenServe anymore to do the maintenance or repairs on the diesel generators. We would just have the fire department mechanic do that work.
Can they? But he could do. You think he could do all of the work? Is there anything they couldn't do that we need
If
to
it
have?
got into electrical, I wouldn't think he would be able to do that, but like these fuel injectors are part of the diesel motor, so,
Is that something you think he can do? We don't know yet.
no, I spoke to him. I mean, he said he can, he works on diesel generators for other fire
Right.
departments, so I would think he could probably do this work. So,
I just want.
it's
Depends
not
how soon.
urgent.
It's not urgent. Then we can.
No, because I don't anticipate we're gonna be in the firehouse for, a month or two, because we still have to get the bathrooms part of the
Okay,
project
so we would
done,
hold off
so.
on that.
Thank you.
Okay. Lastly, a motion to authorize again.
Same thing.
Same thing, right? So
Yep.
we'll hold
Yeah,
off.
that
on
one, it's,
So we'll hold off on 5 and 6. Okay.
Thank you for your report, Chief.
Almost the whole thing, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
what's that?
Almost the whole thing you got.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us to ESOP.
So for the board, I just provided you guys copies and emailed for community outreach. We distributed the civil service exam flyers around the district. We have been receiving calls for people that are interested in taking the exam, which is really exciting. And overall, we received positive feedback. Many of the businesses, I thank them for wanting to put it up in their windows and to promote it as well. So seem to be receiving a lot of positive feedback throughout the community. The next stage, as discussed in last meeting, is to work on some free exam preparation materials. So for those who are interested, we did have a few people sign up for what we were discussing for a free prep course. So the chief and I are still in that stage of discussing what that looks like and hopefully to have things distributed starting in January. Of course, I do ask the board for feedback. There is, if we could hold an event as well, an in-person event, or the chief was mentioning like a Q&A or even just a an info session on the exam. It could be a combo of an open house and an info session. That's something that the board would want to consider in January leading up to the event as well. So I could bring it up then. For our website, we had the most visits so far, I guess 766 visits, which of course makes sense because we are distributing a lot of information about Eastchester Fire District. So happy to see that that's the correlation. The hiring process is the top performing page, and currently the December newsletter is also being drafted as well. Which leads into the fire district election results, which will be included in the newsletter and on a notice that will be sent out to the mailing list. Just wanted to say thank you to our election location hosts, Bronxville Village Hall, Eastchester Public Library, Leroy Gregory Post, and Tuckahoe Community Center, to the amazing work by the election inspectors that day, and to EFD personnel for their assistance as well. The results of the Eastchester Fire District election are as follows. Anthony Sarasi with a total of 373 votes, and write-ins for 53 votes, for a total of 426 votes for our election of 2022. So congratulations to Mr. Anthony Sarasi on his election win for Fire Commissioner.
Thank you.
That's a sizable win.
Of course.
For foils, we received 3 foils and they were processed. Grant writing, I'm working on the LGRMIF next stage. The next grant cycle is coming up, so I'm working on a next grant for the digitization project, so we have a chance to get more funding for now uploading into a software program. So I'm working on seeing what that next stage is, and continued research on other grant application options as well, and other regular office business as is, but the majority of it being fire district election related for this past month.
Great.
Excellent.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Excellent.
Okay, that brings us to personnel items. Got a few things here. So we interviewed and promoted 2 individuals to a new assistant chief position and a captain position on Monday night, and we're going just to discuss that and make a motion now on the assistant chief. So this motion is to appoint Captain Bruce Yazzo, badge 124, to the provisional position of assistant chief with a start date of January 1st, 2023. Pay, compensation, other benefits are laid out in an employment agreement to be executed, but which must be first approved by legal counsel as to form. This position is provisional, and under Westchester County Civil Service is a competitive position. The appointed candidate must test and be reachable on the next civil service list to be considered for a probationary promotion. So I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
Yes.
Commissioner Roach?
Aye.
Commissioner Kyle?
Aye.
Motion carried.
That moves us to the captain promotion. It's a motion to promote Lieutenant Daniel Olivier, badge 181, to the position of contingent permanent captain with a start date of Jan 1st, 2023, subject to a 52-week term of probation and with a salary and other benefits provided for in the collective bargaining agreement with IAFF Local 916. I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
No.
Commissioner Roach?
Aye.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, that leads us to our part-time diesel mechanic, which the chief mentioned in his report. I think we're going to meet with him, I think, sometime between now and our next meeting. We'll arrange for that, and we can discuss what his requests are of us and what we can expect of him. And it's on the agenda because I think it's going to make sense to have somebody on staff, save us, as Chief mentioned, time and hopefully some money on repairs that can be done easily in-house. And discuss that, but otherwise we'll arrange to have to meet with Hank over the next next few weeks.
I mean, I imagine we'll have a reorg meeting early January.
Yeah.
I mentioned to him that might be a good time to, if the board wanted to, interview him or ask him any questions.
Okay?
So isn't that usually the first week of January?
Yeah, that first Thursday we should have a reorg meeting, yeah.
That'll be after the holidays. So
Okay, any other board discussion on that, or?
unless anybody wanted to do it sooner, I mean, I'm sure he's open to whenever the board wants to meet.
I think we could, if everybody's available.
Yeah, it's on me too. We want to meet before the year is out, we could do it.
I-
Just give me a date and I'll run it by him. I'm sure he'd be anxious to come.
We gotta do it pretty soon because people have arrangements for the holidays, so as soon as we could, Commissioner Carlo.
Okay, yeah, we'll get a date together. All right,
Okay, yep.
great.
Okay.
Chief, when do we have to do the GenServe contract? Like, how long does it last? When does it expire?
They're not contracts, they're repair quotes.
I see, okay.
So the contract that we do is for the maintenance annually, and I think that was August that we approved it, and they came in August, September. And then they find things like, the fuel filter housing was cracked, it's dripping, and they have like absorbent pads underneath it, so, it could go a few more weeks or a month like that. I mean, it's probably been like that since September, when the technician noticed it. So, it's something that we have to get done, but it's not critical. And Chester Heights, again, since we're not in that firehouse, we need to get it done before we move back in, which, is gonna be a month or two.
Right.
So, both of those repair contracts can wait, weeks or a month. I wouldn't want to go too long because, as I said, if we're going to move back into Chester Heights, they may need to order parts, and there might be some lead time for that. So
So to Tom's credit, he can do numbers 5 and 6 of your
yeah,
report.
I would assume. I mean, the fuel filter housing, and that should be easily repaired by a diesel mechanic. I mean, the same things on vehicles, and the fuel injectors. I don't know what that entails. I don't know if it's just like a spark plug and you unscrew it, or if it's like a fuel rail or something like that. I'm not familiar, so
Do
I
we
don't
need-
know what it entails.
Do we need anybody in separately for electrical? Meaning, does he need
Not for these two repairs, right? I would assume that the one with Station 4 is that it's not running and it's like a fuel issue. So they're going to test the fuel,
Right.
and they had the John Deere mechanic there like do a test, right, with the computer, the diagnostic test, and that's what his computer said, that it needs new fuel injectors and whatever, it said gaskets and seals and that kind of stuff.
And I believe the board had, a couple of years ago already voted that we had put out an RFP and we have an electrician, right? That gave us pricing.
Yeah, we have two.
I don't think our electrician would work on the diesel motors,
Okay, okay.
they might just sub it out, like they would do the electrical part where it goes to the panels and stuff, but I don't know, I don't know that our electrician.
Well, that's to answer Commissioner Keating, is that we might have an electrician
Well, so the point
already
is,
on
if he
hand.
needs a master's electrician's license, is he able to legally do it?
To work on the John Deere diesel
electrical-
motor, I would say
the electrical
yes,
portions,
but
yeah.
the electrical portion, I don't
Yeah.
think Hank would want to get involved in that.
Yeah. So we need an electrician.
Like I said, we have
Yeah.
an
Yeah,
RFP
yeah,
for an electrician already.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that was a 3-year deal, so I think there's another year left on it. For
Sounds
the
like a small thing to
HVAC
do.
and the electrical RFPs that we went out for.
Okay.
Do you remember, Jamie? Weren't they 3 years?
I think that's right.
Okay.
But if we did use GenServe, for example, they would provide us with electricians, of course.
Yeah, they have people that do both.
Like a one-stop
yeah,
shop,
yeah.
right, okay.
Right.
Okay. All right, so we'll get some time together with Hank and we'll
Yep. Yeah,
discuss.
just let me know and I'll.
So we get the minutes, and we could start working.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we've got some new business here. We're going to pay some bills. Resolution number 131-2022, motion to pay bills and vouchers presented. The board has been supplied with one set of bills and one credit card bill for the board approval. Chief Tween has reviewed all prior to the meeting, except tertiary claims and those specifically marked as reviewed by the treasurer. Treasurer has requested the board approve the following. Warrant 1 dated 12/14/22 for $772,795.74. Credit card bill dated 12/18/22 for $4,314.62 for a total of $778,110.36. I'll make a motion. Give a second.
Second.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
No.
Commissioner Roach?
I'm going to vote no also because there was an invoice in there from GenServe that was they charged 6 hours of labor at $220 an hour to drain 20 units of fluid and then replace the same. I just think that's exorbitant, and that's why I'm so glad we're getting the mechanic on board.
Commissioner Carla?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next one, Medicare Part B reimbursement, resolution number 132-2022. Motion to pay Medicare Part B reimbursements to those qualifying retirees as required by NISHIP in the amount of $136,385.70. I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
I think I have to abstain from that.
That's right. Commissioner Keating?
Yes.
Commissioner Roach?
Aye.
Commissioner Carla?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, that brings us to the last 4 items of our meeting tonight. Next is the FOIL issue that Commissioner Keating has been looking at, so I'll let you handle that one if you'd like to.
No, I think we just should foil the BOA and the VBA.
Okay, where's the motion there?
Now, what do you hope to accomplish with that foil?
I got it.
Well, we had an attendant to the public meeting come in and say that they merged the companies. The attendant was asked, what's the new company's name? Who are the members? Where does he live? So it turns out he said that he was the assistant chief, doesn't know the new name of the merged company, doesn't know the names of the volunteers. And so I understand that as the governing body or the oversight body of the volunteers, I think it's very prudent of us to do that, and it would be, I think, a huge mistake not to at least have a look.
And I agree with you. I think that we shouldn't have to foil this. I think this information should be forthcoming on an annual basis, that we should always be given. Like you said, we're insuring these companies. This information should just be passed to the board every year. There shouldn't be any foiling necessary. But we know that this foil happened in 2015. They didn't answer the foil. It had to go, at a cost of over $80,000 in taxpayer money. So my question to you is, what happens if they don't answer the foil again? Do you have an avenue where you can have this foil enforced without the taxpayer have to fork up $100,000 so we can get this information?
When you say me, or
Well,
does
the
the
district,
board? Does the board?
is
Well, I'm
there
not.
well,
I'm not a lawyer. I can't give you legal advice.
Well, I don't want legal advice. I'm
Okay.
just saying, do you have a plan where you can enforce this foil, or tell the VBA right now that you have a plan where if they don't answer it, you have an avenue where you're going to have them answer it, so that the taxpayers aren't forced to, because we're talking about a reorganization.
I understand. I'm not going to speak for the board, especially with the new.
No, I'm
member here.
asking you.
Yeah, I'm
Speak
gonna
for you
tell-
as a commissioner.
I'm not going to speak for the board. All I know is today we should be voting on foiling this entity. We don't know who they are. I didn't tell them to come in here and talk about their existence. And the fact that they have, I think, is our responsibility, including yours, to ask. And so I think it's a simple. I think it's a simple.
Well, you see
motion.
my fear of how is this going to be enforced? How are we going to move forward?
I can't project into the
without,
future what happens.
I
I
don't
don't
want
know that they-
$100,000. The
I can't
taxpayer
pro-
forking
I
over
can't pro-
$100,000, so we know a name of a new. We know the names of the 7 old companies. So they reorganized. So we need to pay
do you know that?
$100,000. Well, we know all the names of the old companies. They were in existence for 100 years. I mean, during the 20th century, they did great service here in the town of Eastchester.
Can I shorten this?
Including
May-
establishing EVAC.
May I shorten this? If you don't want to foil the
No,
volunteers,
I'm not saying that. I'm asking you,
I'm not
what is your
projecting-
plan moving forward to make sure we get this information without the cost of
Why would you ask me
$100,000?
if I have a
Because
plan?
you brought this up.
I have a whole board here.
Brian, when you came on, I talked to you about this.
What does
You
this,
said, I
Tom,
don't know
Tom,
enough about it.
Tom,
Let me research
what does this
it.
have to do with? We
I'm
had
allowed
a
to
person.
talk.
We had a
No,
person.
I have the floor.
understand,
Let me
but you're
talk.
going back 4
No,
years
no.
about something
Brian,
that I had
I
nothing
have
to do
the floor.
with.
Let me finish
Please.
talking, and then you can respond. I asked you about this. You said, no, I need to research it. So I gave you 3 months. I came back to you. What did you think? What did you find out? No, I haven't done the research. Okay, wait another 6 months.
I'm not.
Commissioner Keating, will you
I'm
please
sorry.
wait until I'm finished?
I can't listen to this, Tom.
You
I'm
can
sorry.
listen to it.
I
You
can't
have to listen to
this.
it. You brought it up.
You can say all what you want. We had a person walk in here and
I
say,
understand that. That's-
you've told me there's $6 or $7 million here, right?
That's right.
Is there $7 million?
We know that for a fact.
Who is in
because
charge of those $7 million?
The VBA has control of it. That's why this,
Who is-
and
who
that's
is
my
the
whole
VBA?
point. No, I'm talking right now. That's
Who
my
is the
whole.
VBA?
Brian, I'm
Tom,
talking.
I'm sorry.
You're
You're asking
you're
crazy
being
questions.
inconsiderate. No, I'm not. I'm bringing
You're
forth
asking me
information.
crazy questions. You're
I'm
singling
not-
me as
I'm
a
not
board.
singling you out.
I don't
I'm-
make the decisions for the board, Tom. I'm
Then
sorry.
let me speak, and then you can talk afterwards.
Take the motion. I don't want to hear you talking about
You're
how
not
I'm
allowed to
responsible.
say that. I'm not saying
I'm
you're
responsible for a
responsible.
foil from 2016.
I'm
How
not-
is that
how-
even humanly possible? I
How
got
did
on
I
the board
even
in
say that? You're
2020.
making things up, Brian.
I
Just
got
why
on
don't
the
you be
board-
quiet and listen?
I got on the board in 2020.
That's
you
fine.
were here for years.
And that's right.
You had ample time to deal with this.
And I talked to you about it at
I'm
length, and you
sorry.
kept putting it off and
What
putting
I'm
it off.
talking about
and then
here,
all of a sudden,
what I am
you
talking
want
about,
to do it.
What I am talking about here is a purported resident walking in here saying, "Hey, the $7 million we've merged, and I don't know who we
Well,
are."
they didn't mention anything about $7 million.
Whatever, fine.
Okay, we just
You're
know
the-
that from the previous
I
foil
don't
and
have.
information
I don't have
and the
that
stock
data.
market.
You have told me that they have $7 million.
You got
They
the
have-
form.
they have-
Jamie has given the board
They have
a
walked
year
in
after
here.
you were on, the Jamie has delivered to the
They
board
have
by email
walked in
one
here.
of their filings. In your 4 years, they've only given us one filing. I agree. This information should be forthcoming immediately.
So why are we arguing over this?
Be-
Why are you going back 3 or 4 years?
Because this is not the way to deal with
I'm
it.
not talking about
The
3
way-
year ago. I am talking about 3
Well, you
months
were.
ago
You
when
kept
we had
putting it off.
a purported
You kept putting it
resident
off. I
coming
said,
in
do
here
this.
and
Oh, I
saying,
don't want to do it. I don't
"We're
want to
in
do it. I don't
charge
know
of
enough.
this.
I don't know enough.
We
and
are
then
in
all
charge
of a
of this.
sudden,
We
now
have
it has to
merged,
be done.
and we don't know
I
who
don't
we
understand
are.
why-
We don't know who the members are, and we're sitting on $7
And we
billion.
never had. And for the last 3 years, we haven't. So why is
sorry.
it now that it's done? So here, and my point is,
That's
this
my
is not
prerogative,
the
a board
way
member
to
to
do
bring
it.
it up.
The board should be making a motion to bring this to the town for a home rule. We met with Senator Meyer's office. We met with Assemblyperson Paulin's office. They agreed to investigate this and to help the board resolve this. This foil is
I
not
don't know anything about that. I know zero about
only
that.
what I told you. You're right.
I'm not comfortable with
That's
that.
fine. You
I
said you were going to
don't-
investigate. You never did. That's all fine.
I'm not
but
an
that's the
investigator.
evidence. This foil is going to solve nothing, but probably give the district a $100,000 bill to try
I
to enforce
disagree.
it.
I
Well,
disagree.
that's why I asked you. Do you have an avenue
I
where
don't,
you
I
can
don't
get
think it
this
costs
done?
anything.
Not the foil, but if they don't answer it, then you're just going to drop it. Okay, they didn't answer the foil. That's it. I
So
did
what if
my
they do
part.
answer?
If they do answer it, that'd be perfect. I hope that's exactly what they will do.
So why
and
are
that-
we
and-
arguing?
and every
Let's
year
take
they
the
will-
first step. The board.
This is we
Let-
already did it. We received the information. That's why I know they have the amount of money they had. This is not going to resolve
Here's the
the
question
issue.
for you, if I may. Did a purported resident come in here months
We
ago?
know they did. It's
Okay.
it's on a
It's
video.
Simple yes or no. There's no interrogation here, just a simple yes or no. Going to help you make it easier for you to make
You
a
don't
decision.
have to help me.
To make an
what
easier
I'm trying to
decision
do
on
is help
tonight.
you to move forward with this so
I'm
that you
moving
can actually resolve it, not just continue the farce. We foiled it. We received the information from the foil, but nothing was ever done. The foil didn't accomplish anything. If you actually want
I
to
didn't
get
do that
this,
foil.
it doesn't matter who did it. You saw the information.
I
No-
haven't seen that information.
Well, it was brought. It was given to you. Some of the letters of it are part of the
I've
email
seen
you
some of
sent
that,
me
but I
today.
don't know what the backup is. I don't know what was discovered.
The board
I
needs
don't
a
know any
home
of that.
rule from the town council to bring this to the legislature to actually solve it.
That's fine.
This is not
that's
going
a separate
to do it.
issue.
Okay.
The question I have for you, since you're going down this path, is: did somebody come here 3 months ago named David Horn saying
You're
that-
asking the same question.
Yes,
Come on,
yes,
please.
yes. So did he say that they've essentially merged?
I won't speak verbatim what he said. He did talk about things. He didn't give us very much information.
They
I agree
merged.
with you.
He didn't know the name of the company. He also gave us an address that was without the district. I'm making a motion to foil the BBA and VOA since 2016 to get that information because I think we're the oversight, at least in the first instance, in the embryonic stages. If you don't want to do it, that is your prerogative, but you have to tell the public tonight that you are not doing that.
That's
based
fine.
on your
So that's what
information.
you're after, basically.
I'm after foiling. How much more clear can I make that?
I just think it's interesting that it took you almost
Do I
4
have a
years
second?
to come to this.
Do I have a second? No second. There you
second.
go. You seconded it?
No second.
No second. There you go. You got your answer.
All right, we're good.
Well, it's a useless avenue.
I
That's the
tried.
problem.
I tried.
Okay.
Okay, next up is a necessity study that Commissioner Keene also, I think, was asking the chief to possibly entertain. And we did a study a few years ago. We have the history of that and the results.
There was a consultant's report done in 1995, and it talked about like steps to try to increase the volunteers, getting more volunteers, and also about staffing.
Right.
It had like 3 or 4 different options. Some of them was, make lieutenants, or make a second lieutenant. I think there was already lieutenants, so then I think it was make a second. I don't know, when did they start the lieutenants? No, was that
January
a
1st,
result of
99.
that? So a result of that study may have been the reason that we started to get lieutenants. So it was manpower and station deployment with all the maps, based upon NFPA standards, response times, and mileage for ISO, the Insurance Service Organization standards. So that was done in 1995. Let me see. In March 6th of 2020, I provided the board with a quote from Matrix Consulting Group. They had recently done a similar study in the New Rochelle Fire Department. And so the quote in 2020 was $46,000. And it was proposal to conduct a fire department staffing and deployment. And, you know, it was, I believe it was 23 pages, and I think I forwarded it to the board. So, you know, that's what I was asked to do at that time, and at that time the board didn't want to move forward with it. So it just, you know, I would have to get a refresh quote. I don't know if it would be more expensive or less expensive now. But so that's it, that was proposal. So I think Commissioner Keating was asking if we want to move forward with that, you know, based upon the type of structures we have to protect. Is 14 people on a shift enough? Is it too many? You know, to have a consulting group come in and give the board guidance on what the proper staffing would be for a department that protects a 208-bed hospital, you know,
Right,
several
university.
10-story buildings, a Iona University, 3 high school, or, you know, 3 school districts, and, you know, numerous multiple dwellings on Garth Road. And, you know, so it would be a study, you know, based upon exactly what the consultants would do, you know, based upon their opinions.
Chief, do you have the recommendation from the first time we did the study? Whenever the last
I
date you
think
just
it's like an
mentioned.
80-page report, right? It didn't, Isan, didn't you
Yeah,
forward
we
it to the
forwarded it
board?
to
Yeah, that was forwarded
Do
to
you
the
know,
board.
yeah.
were there numbers attached to that or not?
As far as
Manpower. Or fire.
I could get the report and take a look. I don't know. There was several options, right? It was like closing houses and combining people. It was get
There
more
were five
volunteers,
options,
you know,
right,
additional
yeah.
recruitment things, you know. So there was numerous recommendations in there. I couldn't say exactly to the staffing, you know, it was done a few years ago. But, you know, I have a copy of it in my office if you want me to grab it. I could, you know.
I'm just curious to see what the number was. So we're at an 80 now, right? Was it more than 80?
Again, I don't have the figures
Yeah.
memorized. I mean, if you
Yeah.
want me to grab it, I could go grab it.
That's a
but-
great idea.
Yeah,
for you to grab.
I think it would be good. So just while we're on the subject for everybody to know.
I know that in the 1950s, the American Insurance Association did a study for the Eastchester Fire Department. At that time, they recommended that there be 6 firefighters on every rig. So that should give you an idea. I believe the 1990s, there was a study done in 1990. It covered a whole lot of area. If they told us, as the chief had mentioned, that they were recommending the relocation of firehouses, that wasn't followed. We left the firehouses where they were built. There was no relocation of firehouses to make them a more central location so that they could be dispersed throughout the district more readily and cover a greater portion of the district. That too probably increased the staffing. You know, with 25 years of firefighter service experience, and when you sent your email to the legal counsel, the legal counsel said get a fire chief with experience to do this report for you. I can, with 99% certainty, they're going to say to increase the staffing on every apparatus. So
And we should.
I don't know if we
But that'll be up to the board.
need to.
Who's gonna
I
pay
mean,
for that increase of staffing on each rig?
If you live in
The budget.
if you live in Eastchester Fire District, you will pay for it, just like anybody else, any
Yeah,
other
sure.
taxpayer.
Sure. Right.
That's all.
We're gonna pay for it. And do you think the taxpayers are gonna stand for, you're putting 6 men on each rig? So how many rigs do we have? How many manpower is that gonna increase?
It would never get to that point. Anthony.
Pardon me?
It would never get to that point. That was going back like.
Well, he's saying
That was a
increase
study
it.
done in the 1950s.
Okay, but Commissioner Keating said we should do it.
I didn't
You
say,
did-
I didn't.
You just said that.
It is a board vote, and if the recommendation, I would vote yes.
Well,
Take the
then I-
recommendation for legal reasons.
I could have
would
swore
do
you
it.
said that we should do that.
I heard him say it too, Anthony.
Yeah, I would do it. I would vote yes today if the report.
Then you
rec-
did say it. I didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't say
yeah,
no
I,
false
I'm happy to
statement.
pay for it, but
There
but,
it is, right in front of you.
Yeah.
But
And that-
for it to
and then-
happen, it's a board. Meaning, I just wanted
Can I
to
take
do.
this?
I just wanted to foil the volunteers.
It-
But it's the
it-
board that makes
that
the
peop-
majority of the board that makes
People
the
in this
decision.
town are complaining now that their taxes are high.
Well, this was very conservative. What year is this, do you know?
95?
95, I believe.
Yeah.
But that's one of the 5 recommendations. They
Yeah,
made.
so this is only 17 personnel per shift.
And at that time,
Right.
how many you were running with in 95? Because you probably didn't even have 2 men on each rig at that point, right?
We had 5 engines, 2
You were
trucks,
running
and the
with 10,
rescue.
so they were asking for a 70% increase at that
In fact,
time.
this town wasn't built 27 years ago when that study came out.
Well,
Steve,
certainly every lot has been filled up
Yes,
since then.
yes.
you've been here for a long time. Do you think we need more manpower?
Yes, really need more.
There you go. There you go. So, how long have you been for in the fire district?
29 years.
29. And you came in every day.
And I came in every day.
So do you?
We'll get to that later.
So do we need?
We'll get to
sp-
that later.
Do we need to
So with-
spend
so with
$100,000
Stephen's-
on a
Stephen's
necessity study
authorization-
if we already are coming to an agreement?
Mr.
that we should
Commissioner
increase it?
Keaton, what Stevens?
I don't know the number. I personally would like a necessity study, but
So Commissioner Keaton, would,
yes, sir.
were firefighter Ranalone is saying we're gonna go with his recommendation? Or
I,
your
I only asked his
What was your
opinion because I would.
recommendation?
We need more men.
Uh-oh.
More staffing, I should say.
I only asked it. The board. Can I finish up?
Oh,
I
now
wanna
you
hit-
want courtesy, huh?
Yeah, always. I don't care about you.
That's so funny.
Commissioner Laurie,
Yes,
it's not
sir.
me who makes the decisions. It's the majority of the board that makes. So if the majority of the board
I never
said,
knew that. I'm
Okay,
glad
well,
you
you're
told
gonna
me
know
that.
now. And so if
Thank
the
you.
majority of the board wants to do the
ne-
necessities,
I
We're
never
hiring-
knew that in
we're
6
hiring-
years that I'm
We're
here.
hiring more people. We're trying to get to, what, 15 per tour?
Yeah, we can do that.
Right, so we're on
You've
our
already
way.
voted on that, I
ideally-
Right,
believe.
we're on our way there. I don't think we need a necessity study and spend $100,000 to know we know the answer is going to be we need more people.
I do.
And I would,
number
I
is.
would think that, you centralize the locations, you put more firefighters
You should
on
probably
each
stay
rig,
out of the concession.
and you just decrease the amount of apparatus. As I think the chief was telling us earlier, that they were saying realigning the apparatus, decrease the amount of apparatus, and put more membership on each apparatus. This way they're safer.
So
It
you're
just,
gonna rely on mutual aid.
Yeah, I
Excuse
would
me?
decrease
You
anything.
rely on mutual aid. You have less apparatus, you have
Well,
less
well, no.
availability in town.
I mean, when you go to a fire, Steve,
But there's-
only
there's
one
multiple
engine's
calls.
doing the pumping.
But there's multiple calls.
Right.
Well,
Same
there is.
time.
Absolutely. We're not.
Well, we
we
just
wouldn't
had
decrease
to, but
anything.
there's not
no
that
chance
many.
of it, and there's no. I doubt any single resident wants a decrease. I doubt it.
Decrease?
Yeah,
We're not talking about decreasing.
in apparatus, or manpower, or other.
Well, I'm
Upgrade?
interested in keeping firefighters safe. I know if 4 firefighters respond on an apparatus, they're safer than 2 firefighters responding. But do we need 4 engines so that one can respond at a time? There's only one engine that pumps at an operation. The lines are stretched from that apparatus. So the first apparatus arrives, if they can start to stretch immediately. It gets water on the fire quicker. As the second apparatus comes in, it will team up with the first engine to make sure that the line is in position at the seat of the fire. And then the third engine will come in and they'll start a second line to back up the first line to make sure it's safe. The second due engine will be assigned accordingly, whether it's need on the first line or it can be used to assist to stretch the second line. If you have 4 members on a ladder apparatus, now you have roof ventilation is able to be taken place. You have a forcible entry team. You can get into the building. You can start doing the searches. As it is now, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that the 2, when the ladder company comes, that they're helping with the stretching of the lines.
I think we're supposed to explicitly stay away from the operations, and that's the chief's duty.
Well,
But-
no, we're
but-
supposed to supply the chief with the manpower and apparatus that he needs to operate.
and that's
So
why-
that is,
and
we're
that's
the
why I wanna-
managers. We're
that's
not
why I wanna
staying
do a
away from it.
necessity
We have
study.
to do it.
That's why I would do this.
But we already know the answer. Like Commissioner Carlos said, we know the answer. It's just a matter, do we want to put that burden on the taxpayer or not?
I think you do it. I think you cover it legally, and you do it the right way. Why would you guess at it?
We're not guessing at it. We're making good, sound judgments by people who have done this work. You're the one that asked the union president for his opinion. He gave it to you. Are you going to ask for it and then discount it like it was needed?
I'm ready to do it. I want to do the necessity study. I like to hear from people who are in the business, within the district, who are working within the district, especially somebody who's been here for 29 years, every day, every working day. Do you want to talk about absences
Whenever you're
while
ready.
we're waiting for the chief?
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
Did you want me to get him, did you receive
Let
all the
him
information?
let him do it. I do have one small housekeeping item with respect to absences, Steve. Just it's a numbers thing, if that's okay with you guys.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And so, in light of all that's gone on tonight, I thought it might be better that Jamie reads the numbers. Jamie, do you mind starting with 2017? Just the total absences, 24-hour tour, and then its corresponding 8 hours.
Are you including long-term injury?
These are absences.
This is long-
Everything.
Injury.
This is an
Everything.
absence. So yes, it is long-term, it is short-term,
Okay,
it
so
is.
if you give an average, we know it's gonna be skewed, and the average is gonna be way off. We know that.
Maybe or maybe
Right?
not. Because here's
Well,
the
then
thing.
we should have that number then. It's not a
We
complete
will
study. Okay,
we'll
go ahead.
we
Go
will
ahead.
give you that.
Read
I
the
think.
skewed numbers.
Can I just say something?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Jamie.
Please. Jamie can give the total absences. I think one of the commissioners also asked for long-term
Okay.
and short-term. But is it conceivable that a firefighter is out on long-term,
Yes.
may not be out correctly on long-term? Meaning that he or she is working on the side and not.
Well, that's,
So we don't see it. That's my point. We don't see a person's long-term reason for being out, and so that's the reason why we need to give
well,
you
you get
just.
updated medical reports
we-
from your doctors that
we-
they're unfit to return to duty.
But we don't see the reasons, and so we want to just keep it unskewed.
That's
and
HIPAA
just
laws, that's not the firefighters.
Correct. So we just want to give you the total amount, and the point is, I just want to make it we're whole on the sense that it's not a 1% absence rate.
If you remove the long-term injuries, it is.
No, it's not. Jamie, is it
Okay.
1% on a long? If we
Long
remove
term, you
all,
mean when someone gets hurt?
Someone's out for a long term?
Okay, that's
Right.
got
Not
nothing.
one,
Yeah,
one
That's
done.
That's
to me,
fine.
to me, that's got nothing to do with the
fine.
absentees.
It's in there.
Fine.
It's in
Yeah,
there.
but the absentees is one thing. The long term is
But
different.
they're all in that.
That
report.
shouldn't be that way.
Thank you.
That's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
That's right.
You have the absences sans the long-term numbers, right? Meaning the long-term sicknesses. Meaning if it's 8%, you can call out the long-term absences for that year, and then give the corresponding percentages for non-long.
I can parse the data any
Perfect.
way that
So you can
you
have
want.
that. You can have that. Just so so you hear the percentages,
Okay.
but it's not 1% because we looked at the
Who else have
numbers.
the number of firefighters that never called in sick?
Yes.
Oh,
That's
thank you.
different.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
different.
No, I
This-
want to hear all these numbers. I want to hear all the numbers.
You're welcome to that,
I want to hear
but
all.
it's not 1%. It's hovering
Let
anywhere
Jamie
from
talk. Thank
6 to 10%.
No, it's not. No, it's
Okay,
not.
let's hear it.
Okay. So when I refer to the total absences, that will include long-term absences and short-term absences, whether they are sickness, injury, work-related, workers' comp-related, off the job. This is just the data that's here is just the total number of absences. When we refer to a long-term absence, that is any absence that is more than 3 tours. So for 2017, we had 458 total absences, 324 long-term, 134 short-term. 2018, it was 461 total absences, 328 long-term, 133 short-term. 2019 was 376 absences, 242 long-term, 135 short-term. 2020 was 349 absences, 234 long-term, 115 short-term. For 2021, it was 552 absences, 405 long-term, 147 short-term. And year-to-date for 2022, it is 430 absences, 244 long-term, 186 short-term. As far as sick incentive days earned, which means someone that does not call out sick in a 6-month period, since that program has been established, it was 33 people earned it the first half of 2020, 30 in the second half, 29 in the first half of 21, 23 in the second half of 21, and 28 in the first half of 22.
Okay, so that's about 130 short-term absences in a year over the last 4 years. That's about 2 a person. So I don't know how that's 8%.
That's nothing.
So you have 14 people that call in, and you have 14 people in a single day that work, not 75
Go by
people.
numbers. Let's not change the narrative now.
Fine.
You read the numbers, and the numbers don't come out to 8 to 10%. Am I correct? Am I correct?
No,
I'm not correct.
no, I got the numbers here. These are
Okay,
total
so if
absences.
it's total 130.
Hold on, these are total absences for 2017. 7.84%, 7.89%, 6.44%, 5.9%, 9.45%, and 7.72%.
Thank you for reading your numbers of
They're not-
long-term absences. We're talking about short-term
I didn't
absences.
put these numbers together,
Oh,
Jamie.
God.
I didn't put these numbers together.
No, you did not.
You did them?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't do them.
I didn't say you did.
Okay.
But there's are we arguing at the point there's 130 short-term absences? Are you arguing that number? No. So that means that was 2 per person per year, if you don't count the long-term. The long-term skewed the numbers. So as far as regular firefighters, a regular firefighter calls in twice a year.
You have,
And really, just to clarify, we should talk about, what was there, 35, 40 members that never called in sick during the year?
Pandemic for 2 years.
Right, so a great proportion of the firefighters never call in sick.
Correct.
They have a sick incentive that they would rather use for their time off than call in sick. But there is the other percentage that are calling in 6, 7, 8 times a year. You know, so
you don't have to
really,
be that person.
But,
You can.
but hopefully,
correct.
we had under Commissioner Keating's request, we hired an investigator. It was working. The investigator was put on abeyance, and it did seem to increase again, unfortunately.
I correct you. There's one firefighter that almost self-reported, and that's all that came out of the investigation. Nobody else was caught doing anything illegal. Am I wrong?
No,
That's not correct.
There's one.
It's
There's
correct.
one
Only
person
one person.
got investigated, right?
Only one
Well,
person.
no, many more were investigated.
No,
We had
okay.
ethics
Well,
counsel do
but
interviews
we
for
keep
quite a
having
few.
these-
Facts didn't add up.
And as far as I know, there was actually 2 that accepted discipline
Correct.
for it.
Correct.
Well, only one was the investigator.
Yeah, one was prior to the investigation.
An investigation was done. We're not saying who it was done by. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Is that accurate?
But in the last year,
Okay.
two
Hold on.
two
Hold on
members
one sec.
accepted
That's accurate,
responsibility.
right?
Yes.
There was an investigation done. Just because it wasn't the investigator doesn't mean correct.
we had
So,
outside counsel
right.
come in.
And there were acceptances of an occurrence, right?
Yes, with one, the other one is still.
Okay. So we don't need
to.
to give any details. That's it. We just right.
And unfortunately, I've been told that there was a previous officer who antagonized the membership to go sick to his liking. It's a very unfortunate culture that he created, but when we were doing the interviews for Assistant Chief, who I believe is now taking over the home visitations for medical leave, he felt that he was going to improve that culture, that he was going to ask, that he thought it was an embarrassment. Those few members, and I emphasize few members, that are abusing their sick leave incentive. And we have to remember, when we're talking about a tour, we're talking about 3 8-hour days. You know, so when you say there's 2, that makes it 6 days. I mean, that's not astronomical, obviously, by the world standards. But hopefully the culture can be changed. It'll be changed when the membership themselves want to change it. And we pray that they will do that. They'll make themselves a better department. It'll be a more efficient department, and we can stop having these conversations, and that will be awesome.
Amen. Totally agree.
Are we done now?
Yeah, I'm
We can't
finished.
have this conversation, so I don't know, but we can do this every
Yeah,
meeting.
you know, I'm finished. I just wanted to give Steve the numbers that it wasn't 1%.
Okay.
It's much higher than that.
All right, okay,
It's not 10%.
okay.
Not if you start to.
All right, we said we're done, so let's be done.
All right, so we, on the study chief.
Yeah, so I got the report, the 1995. So there was several recommendations. So it says there are 5 possible alternatives to the current delivery system. Do nothing is number 1. Number 2, increase the number of personnel available for emergency response with A, hire additional personnel, and B, recruit additional volunteer personnel. 3 would be restructure current deployment and facilities, which would be change current career personnel deployment and recruit additional personnel. Number 4 would be modify the district boundaries, separate villages of Bronxville and Tuckahoe from the district, and let them get their own fire departments. And number 5 is dissolve the fire district. So those were their 5 possible things. So they say, of these 5 options, we believe the only options, only options 2 and 3 are worthy of consideration. So options 2 and 3, one of their recommendations was to close the Tuckahoe and Chester Heights firehouses, redeploy the members as per Station 1, a command car, and a rescue pumper with 4 people. Station 3 would have a pumper and a ladder with 5 people, with 3 being on the ladder and 2 people on the pumper. And Station 5 would have the same, a pumper and a ladder, with 2 people on the pumper and 3 people on the ladder, for a total firefighters of 14, and 1 captain assigned to the command car, and 2 lieutenants, 1 assigned to the pumper. So each of the apparatus would have 3 people, with the with Station 3 having a lieutenant and 5 firefighters, and Station 5 having a lieutenant and 5 firefighters. So it said that would require adding 1 person per group. And again, it's, anytime you talk about closing firehouses, the residents get upset, and so that's why the board, I would assume, didn't move forward with that one.
So do certain board members. I get upset when you want to close a firehouse.
It's a big thing, it's like even in the city when it happens, the community comes out and, nobody wants to lose a firehouse if it's a block away, and then the next firehouse is maybe 10 blocks away.
Correct. Yeah, we were going to do that.
Reduced response time. So that would be a total career staffing of 17 per shift, which right now, with the lieutenants, captains, and 11 firefighters, we have 14 on a shift. So that was in 1995 when we still had, they were estimating like 9 to 10 volunteers on a call, that you should have, 17 career per shift. So
we don't have
now
volunteers that go to the call.
Now we don't, but in 1995 we did.
Right.
until
So this is
2007.
out of date. It's not.
Yeah, so this was what the stuff that they did the research and the mapping, and they analyzed the calls, how many calls each they had, and that. So
How many years ago?
this was 1995, and the name of the company was MMA Consulting Group, Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah. So
So
Now, could I say something
20
on that? On
28
these
years
studies?
ago.
These people come to our community, do studies, tell us what to do. Like we don't know what to do. And then they run off. Now this one went to Boston. Just let me explain something to some of the board members who weren't here when this happened. Right now, we have a young firefighter on the job here that his grandfather burned in a house fire on Dainty Avenue. And I was one of the biggest opponent when they closed the Tuckahoe Hose Company. Mike was in the volunteers, Tom was in the volunteers, and Commissioner Ranello. And Judge Mayer was on the board then, as a commissioner. We argued and argued with them not to close the Tuckahoe Hose Company. And his answer to me was, you guys come up here sporting your Tuckahoe Hose Company jackets. We're gonna close that company down in the Tuckahoe Firehouse. And I tell you, sir, his exact words were, sir, we have another firehouse just 5 blocks away. And the 5 blocks away was in Bronxville. Well, that night was on St. Patrick's Day. Mr. Chimera's house burned. and his grandson is on duty here in this department today. He burned to a crisp. And the fire truck that had to come from 5 blocks away was from Bronxville. It was a straight run. All the Tucker Hose Company had to do was come up Underhill, turn down Waller Street, and race down to Dainty Avenue. But he burned. And that was one of the causes of closing a company down. And now we're gonna listen to somebody from Boston to come and tell us to close our firehouses down. Am I correct, Tom? Remember that fire on St. Patrick's Day?
Yep.
How that man burned to a crisp?
Yep.
And today, thank God, nothing has ever happened except one time down in Waverly Square that happened. But now, today, we're a stronger fire department. We don't have to listen to somebody from Boston to tell us what to do. Chief, I don't mean to be insulting, please.
I was just reading
Yeah.
what was in their
Yeah,
report.
please don't
It
take,
wasn't-
but that just irked me that night that happened, when only 2 days before that, they had closed that company. Am I correct, Tom? Mike, you remember that? Commissioner Ranalone was there. Were you on the job then?
Yes.
Okay. You remember that fire?
I wasn't there, but I remember it.
So let's not talk about closing companies and firehouses here. This town is big enough for the amount of firehouses that we have, and we need them. And I'm sure the taxpayers don't want to see none of their firehouses closed. Look, all the controversy Mr. Parisi brought up here from Chester Heights when they were doing that years ago before they did this big renovation. And we parked the squad out on the ramp and put a tent over it. Am I correct, Mr. Parisi?
You're right. You can't place a life on
Exactly.
a firehouse. Because if you do,
But it happened.
it happens, but you can't do that. You have to keep, the firehouses are a part of the community. Just like the police department's a part of the community, a hospital's a part of the community, house of warships are a part of the community, and schools. Take one of those away, you have a big broken window effect. And
I agree with you. That's the reason why I want to make a motion to do the necessity study. I think the study's going to say, I think the study's going to say, yes, you need more than 17. I think they're going to say they need 25. Steve may agree with me, and I'm going to vote to hire the 25. I don't know about my colleagues. I'll never close a firehouse. I'm from a family of firefighters. I would never do it.
I don't think any of these,
No.
any of these gentlemen are in favor of closing a firehouse.
I don't think anybody
In this
here
town.
is. So I'm not
In
where
town,
the
village,
conversation
I don't
about
think-
closing a firehouse is coming
Why-
from.
But why are you going to take good money and put it into a pot of water?
I'm concerned. I will tell you my own feelings about this.